Battle for Kyiv. The Battle of Kyiv was part of the Kyiv offensive in the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine for control of Kyiv, the capital city of Ukraine, and surrounding districts. The combatants were elements of the Russian armed forces and Ukrainian ground forces. The battle lasted from the 25th of February 2022 to the 2nd of April 2022 and ended with the withdrawal of Russian forces. Initially, Russian forces captured key areas to the north and west of Kyiv, leading to international speculation of the city's imminent fall. However, stiff Ukrainian resistance sapped the momentum. Poor Russian logistics and tactical decisions helped the defenders to thwart efforts at encirclement, and, after a month of protracted fighting, Ukrainian forces mounted successful counterattacks. During the peace talks in Istanbul on the 29th of March, the Russian delegation declared they would drastically scale down military activity near Kyiv and Chernihiv. 4 days later, the Ukrainian authorities declared that Kyiv and its surrounding province were again under Ukrainian control. First Russian attack, the 25th to the 27th of February 2022. Russian forces engaged Ukrainian troops at Hostomel Airport on the 24th of February 2022. A key supply point for Russian troops near Kyiv, the airport, located in Hostomel, a town northwest of the city, was captured the following day. Russian infiltration and initial Ukrainian mobilization. On the morning of the 25th of February, 3 Russian saboteurs, dressed as Ukrainian soldiers, entered Obolon district, 10 kilometers, 6 miles, north of the Verkhovna Rada building, the seat of the Parliament of Ukraine. They were killed by Ukrainian forces afterwards. Several hours later, a Ukrainian Sukhoi Su-27 fighter aircraft piloted by Colonel Alexander Oksenchenko was shot down over the city, eventually crashing into an apartment building. Throughout the day, gunfire was heard at several wards of the city. Ukrainian officials described the gunfire as arising from clashes with Russian forces. 38-39. There was heavy gunfire in the city during the night. Ukrainian forces later claimed to have killed around 60 Russian saboteurs during the process. Escalation. On the morning of the 26th of February, Russian artillery shelled the city for more than 30 minutes concurrently. Ukrainian forces repelled an attack on a power plant in the northeastern neighborhood of Troyeshchina. The attack was suggested to be a Russian attempt to cut Kyiv off from electricity. Heavy fighting also occurred near the Kyiv Zoo in Shulyavka, where Ukrainian forces defended an army base on Prospect Peremoty. According to President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian forces managed to repel a Russian offensive and continued to hold Kyiv and its surrounding areas. A curfew was imposed from 1700 to 8 o'clock, and violators were to be considered saboteurs. According to the British Ministry of Defense, Russian forces were 31 kilometers, 19 miles, from the city center of Kyiv. On the 27th of February, clashes between Ukrainian forces and Russian saboteurs continued. Meanwhile, local officials remained adamant that the city was still under full Ukrainian control. Later that morning, a rocket fell and exploded in the courtyard of a 16-story high-rise in Troyeshchina, destroying several automobiles. Ukrainian officials allege that the missile was fired by a Russian strategic bomber, clarification needed, from Belarus. By the evening, the Associated Press reported that Mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, had stated the city was encircled, which was subsequently clarified by his spokesperson as a mistake in the Kyiv Independent. The report has since been classified as false information. During the night, a Russian convoy attempted to set up a temporary base at Syrets Metro, which was responded by a deadly confrontation with Ukrainian troops. Russian troops also fired at a Ukrainian military bus, creating an unknown amount of casualties. Civilian responses. During the start of the attack, Klitschko vowed to take up arms and fight. Zelensky urged citizens of Kyiv to respond to the Russian assault with improvised attacks using Molotov cocktails. Residents were warned to avoid windows and balconies. 18,000 guns were distributed amongst citizens during the first day of the battle. While the Ukrainian Territorial Defense Forces, normally kept in reserve, were activated upon the start of the attack. On the 26th of February, Ukrainian Interior Minister Denis Monastyrsky announced that civilian volunteers in Kyiv had been given more than 25,000 assault rifles and approximately 10 million bullets, as well as rocket-propelled grenades and rocket launchers. Second Russian attack. Russian convoy and continuous shelling. On February 28, a fresh wave of Russian troops advanced towards Kyiv, but little direct combat occurred, with only 3 missiles were fired at the city that day. Satellite images revealed the existence of a long column of Russian vehicles heading to Kyiv along a 64-kilometer-long, 40 miles, highway approaching Kyiv from the north, and was approximately 39 kilometers, 24 miles, from the center of Kyiv. Ukrainian soldiers killed an Israeli-Ukrainian citizen at a checkpoint, mistaking him for a Chechen member of the Russian army. That day, Klitschko banned the sales of alcohol in Kyiv while appealing to shop owners and pharmacy chains not to take advantage of the situation by raising the prices of food, essential goods and medicines. Encirclement efforts of Kyiv. In the early morning of the 2nd of March, the Ukrainian Air Force claimed it had shot down 2 Russian Sukhoi Su-35 over Kyiv. Later in the morning, Klitschko stated that the Russian army was beginning to surround the city in an attempt to enforce a blockade. Klitschko told Channel 24 that tanks were approaching Kyiv from Belarus and that Ukrainian authorities were inspecting Ukrainian checkpoints for preparedness. Estonian Defense Forces intelligence chief Margo Grossberg estimated that the advancing Russian convoy would arrive to Kyiv's outer suburbs in at least 2 days, after which they would try to lay siege to the city. Polish President Andrzej Duda said Zelensky had told him that Ukrainian forces would not withdraw from Kyiv. The intention was to protect the inner ring from the fighting occurring on the outer ring, and keep Russian forces fighting in the suburbs. 80. On the night of February 24, the city was divided into sectors with generals assigned to each sector, following a chain of command leading up to Sursky. All of Kyiv Oblast's aviation capabilities were also moved to different locations a week before the invasion. 80. However, there was only one available tank brigade to defend the capital, the 72nd Mechanized Brigade. Debris from an intercepted Russian rocket fell on the Kyiv Pasazhirsky railway station, damaging a major heating pipeline. The resulting explosion caused minor damage to the station. On the 3rd of March, the New York Times estimated that over 15,000 people were hiding in the city's subway for shelter. On the same day, the United Kingdom Ministry of Defense issued a statement that over the past 3 days the advancing Russian convoy had made little discernible progress going forward. On the 4th of March, a new wave of shelling struck downtown Kyiv, including the Borshchahivka neighborhood. A CNN investigation found that the strikes had hit a business center and many multi-story buildings in the western areas of the city. On the 7th of March, Ukrainian authorities claimed Ukrainian forces had destroyed 2 Russian aircraft. Later, Zelensky denied rumors that he had fled the city, stating that he will stay in Kyiv. The effort to encircle Kyiv ultimately came to naught. Later, on the 22nd of March, Ukrainian forces retook the suburb of Makariv, effectively halting any potential blockade of the city. Like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel.